Okay, so now we're going to look at simple interest. Now, basically, if you are going to borrow money from the bank, they will charge you extra money because you have borrowed that money, and that's called interest. Likewise, if you are to put money into a savings account, um, they will actually give you extra money because you have put your money in there. So that's when you're getting extra money, you've got savings in there. The interest rates for saving money are very, very, very low at the moment. I think it's like 0.3% or something ridiculous. The interest rates, if you have a home loan, are very low. They're the lowest they've been in decades, um, but they're still around 3% ish. Depends on who you're with. Um, so today we're going to look at simple interest, which is where there's an amount of money and the interest is paid or charged at the end of the term that has been agreed to. So we've got a formula. We've got interest equals principal times the rate times the number of times that it's in there for, years, months, or whatever. Okay, so looking at the first example, find the simple interest on $4,000, 3.5% per annum for 6 years. So you can go through and write in, if you like, what each of the ones is with respect to the formula. So 4,000 would be the principal that we're starting with. This is our rate, and this is the number of time periods you can see in there. So the simple interest, I, would be 4,000 times by 3.5%. You can just use the percentage button on the calculator if you've got that on yours, and then times by 6. Okay, I'll do this for the first one and then I'll just pause the video for the rest. So 4,000 times 3.5% times 6, and that gives $840 in interest. Part B, 13,500 at 5.5% per annum for 7 months. So PA means per annum, but we're saying that we're only going to have this amount of money wherever it is for 7 months, not a whole year. Now this is a bit tricky because we've got per annum as a rate and this is in months. I can't just do that times that times that. I need to change this to be a fraction of a year. So interest, 13,500 times by the rate, 5.5%. I haven't laid this out very well, but that's okay, for 7 months. So times by 7 over 12. Okay, so you just get your calculator and go 13,500 times 5.5% times 7 over 12. Because that's what fraction of a year it is. So $433.13. Okay, and very similar part C. So the interest will be 75,640 times by the rate. Now the fraction here, 210 days. I need to change that to a fraction out of a whole year. How many days are in a year? There's 365. So times 210 over 365. Calculator again, 75,640, 18.3% times 210 over 365. So to 2 decimal places. Okay. Now they're pretty basic, straightforward. They do get a bit trickier when we're not actually finding the interest. It wants us to find something else in that formula. So this time we're looking at someone who's invested an amount for 2 years. We've got the interest rate. This time I want to know what is the actual amount of money in the bank account, not just the interest, but if Petra was to go and withdraw everything from her account, what would she actually be able to take out? So she's investing 17,400, which is the principal, 2 years, that's N, and then we've got our interest rate there. So interest would be 17,400 times your rate, 3.75% for 2 years. Okay, calculator. So 1305. So that's just the interest. That's not what she started with. What she started with was this amount. So she has invested that and she's made that amount of money. So if she was to go and withdraw her money, she would take that amount out as well as this amount. So the final value of the investment, we typically call the final value A, which will make sense next lesson when we do compound interest, but that's another bit. So our principal is 17,400 plus the interest. Okay, so adding that on. And you get 18,705. Okay, and so in the next example, after 4 years, an investment has earned that in interest, and what is the rate? Okay, so go through with another colour pen and work out, well, what's each of the bits to the formula? So N, that's our time period, 4 years. An investment of 13,000, that's the principal. That's what we've started with. We've got this is our interest, and we want to know what the interest rate is. So if we have I equals PRN, we go and substitute in all the values that we've been given. So I, 2808 equals 13,000. Rate, we don't know. That's the thing we're trying to find. And N is 4. Now we've got an equation that we need to solve. Firstly, we're going to tidy up this right-hand side here. So 13,000 times 4 will give 52,000 times R. Now, if we've got 52,000 times R, what's the opposite of timesing by 52,000? Dividing by 52,000, which sounds weird. That's a big number to be dividing by. So now we can type that fraction into the calculator. And we get 0.054. Now that is not a percentage yet. That is a decimal. How do we change a decimal to a percentage? We need to multiply that by 100 to get 5.4%, and that's per annum. Okay. In the next example, very similar. This time, how many months will 10,000 need to be invested to earn 250 in simple interest at 3.25% per annum? So how many months, that's like the time we want to work out, or the N in the formula. That's the principal, that's the interest, and then we've got the rate there. So if I equals PRN, the interest is 250, principal 10,000 times by 3.25% times by the time. Okay, so tidying this up, getting your calculator and doing 10,000 times 3.25%. So 10,000 think it's 325. I'll just double check. Brain is in holiday mode. 325 times n. So what's the opposite of timesing by 325? It's dividing by 325. Okay, so 250 divided by 325. That's a decimal there. It's asking for how many months. So this would be as a decimal or a fraction of a whole year. I'm going to see what happens if I press SD to convert it to a fraction. 250 over, that's not nice. If it was out of 12, that would be really nice to work with, because then I could just say, hey, that's 10 months out of 12. That's fine, but it's not. So I'm going to need to know, how do I work out what that is in terms of like out of a whole year? And we're saying how many months will it be? How many months are in a year? Well, there's 12. So if I've got this decimal here, 0.769 blah, 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 and that's in years, I want to work out how many months that is. So I'm going to multiply that number by 12. So just press times 12, 9.23. Okay, I'm going to round that because 10 will be too much. How many months? 10 going to need to be invested. Let's say, technically it's 9, we'll say 9.23. This one's a little bit tricky because if it's invested for 9 months, it's not going to earn the 250. It's going to be less than that. So in order to get the 250, it has to be in there for 10 months. The interest will be paid after 10 months. So 9 months will be not enough, and 10 months will be over, but it will have earned that amount. So I'm going to say, like, sometimes you think 9.23, I'm going to round to 9, but you have to think about the context of the question as well. So let's say 10 months it will need to be invested in there. Okay.